Good afternoon and welcome to the Fall CTE State Advisory Committee meeting. I'm Harmony Little, Executive Director of Credentialing Strategies at KCTCS, and I serve as the chair for this committee. We have so many new members with us today that I'd like to get started with just doing introductions, and we'll go ahead and start by doing the folks in the room, and then we'll move online, and then I will introduce our student visitors today. I'm going to go to my left.
Sure. Hi, I'm Scott Usellis. I'm the data manager here in the Office of Career and Technical Education.
Good afternoon, and to our folks online, appreciate you joining us. My name is Reagan Satterwhite. I'm the policy advisor within the Office of Career and Technical Education at KDE.
Good afternoon, and again, thank you for being here. I'm Beth Hargis, and I'm the Associate Commissioner for the Office of Career and Technical Education.
And my name is Wallace Caleb Bates, and I work in the Division of Communications here at KDE. I'm not actually a member of this committee.
My name is Larry Garrity, and I'm the Director of Technical Schools here in the Office of Career and Technical Education.
My name is Tom Thompson. I'm the Division Director of Student Transition and Career Readiness in the Office of Career and Technical Education.
Hi, my name is Linda Jackson. I'm the Project Manager for ESSER funds with the Office of Career and Technical Education.
And we'll move to our folks online.
Well, let's get.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have two more. We have two other visitors in the room. If we'll start to the left and my left.
My name is Beth Engel, and I'm the branch manager for the career programs and pathways in the Office of Career and Tech.
Hello, I'm Robin Lynton, and I'm the Student Leadership Development Branch Manager.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Online, can you hear us? All right, since I don't have the role.
They're saying yes.
Okay. Do you want to call them out or?
Sure.
Scott's gonna pick who gets to go next.
That's right. Let's go down the line, I guess. Darlene.
Good afternoon. I'm Darlene Zybart. I'm the CEO and president at the Kentucky Society of CPAs.
Debbie Dennison.
Good afternoon. Debbie Dennison, Deputy Director of the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board, proxy for Beth Brinley, who is the Deputy Secretary of the Education Labor Cabinet. Happy to be here.
Matt Hayes.
My name's Matt Hayes. I'm the director at Grayson County Technology Center.
Senator Hinton.
Yes, Jimmy Higdon, Kentucky State Senator, and glad to be with you today. I really intended to be there in person. My apologies for not making it.
The wonder of modern technology.
Yes.
Mike Miller.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Miller. I'm the ATC West Region Admin Consultant.
John Sanders.
Yes, John Sanders, and I'm principal at Franklin County Career Tech Center.
Shelley Goodwin.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I was having some technical problems and was just able to finish connecting.
Problem. And then we do have someone.
And I'm sorry, while you look for that, Shelley, who are you with, please?
Kentucky Association of Manufacturers.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Number up there?
Yeah, there is a phone number. I don't know whose that is. And so if you called in, you could state your name.
If there's somebody online who has not introduced themselves yet. Maybe they're.
Let's see. Okay. Dr. Glass, are you in the meeting?
I am.
Welcome. And we have two more people who have joined us in the room. So if you can ask Mike, we're doing introductions.
Oh, okay. Mike Stone, the Kentucky Association for Career and Technical Education.
Okay, thank you. And
Brian Berry, Director of Government Relations for the department.
All right, wonderful. Is there anybody who has not introduced themselves yet, with the exception of our students? Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you. It is my great pleasure to introduce to everybody Eva Kay and Ben Williams. Kay comes to us from FCCLA and Ben represents FFA. And I'd like each of them to take a couple minutes to introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your experience with your student organization and anything else you want to share with this advisory committee, please.
Sure. So my name is Eva Kate Probus. I'm the Kentucky State President of Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. I attend Woodford County High School in Versailles, Kentucky. I've been part of SCCLA for 4 years now. This is my senior year. And so I just wanted to take a minute to share some of what SCCLA has done this year and what we have upcoming for our state. So in October, I had the opportunity to visit Washington, D.C. To talk to Senator McConnell on behalf of career and technical education. So talk about Perkins 5 and things like that for family and consumer sciences education. I just attended National Fall Conference for FCCLA in Columbus, Ohio. And my state executive council is working hard right now to prepare for our state leadership conference at the end of March. So I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Glad to have you. Ben?
Good afternoon, everyone. As she said, my name is Benjamin Williams, and I'm honored to be here on behalf of the Kentucky FFA Association. This year, I have the opportunity to serve as the Kentucky FFA State President, and I'm just so blessed to be here and have this opportunity to meet with the people that are able to help our students and our members grow in education. A little background on FFA. It was formerly known as Future Farmers of America, and is now recognized as a national FFA organization, so that it can encompass all forms of agriculture and any form of industry, whether that's biochem, traditional farming. It's just to prepare students for their future careers, prepare them for leadership roles that they intend to take in the future. This year, we have now increased our membership to 20,000 members, so we're super excited and blessed to have that many members that are able to take part in our programs and be able to compete in competitions to help grow them as leaders. So I'm extremely blessed and humbled to be here with you all and just really see the work that you all put in to prepare those students for their futures. Thank you.
Thank you both. Are there any questions for our student guests? Well, we are thrilled to have you. And if anybody has a question as we move forward, please go ahead. If you all will indulge me, I think we're going to ask in a flexible agenda as we have Dr. Glass with us online, and I'm not sure if he needs to go somewhere, but we can wait on the approval of the minutes and move to his remarks, and then we can jump back into the agenda if that's okay with everybody. Are there any objections? Well, then, Dr. Glass, please take it over.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate all of you that are joining virtually or in person. These advisories are essential to us getting feedback from people across the state, and that's especially important when it comes to our partners in business and industry. We want to make sure that the experiences that we're offering and creating for students in Kentucky match closely to the needs that our business and industry have in the state, and so your feedback and input on that is essential. We are headlong into implementing a great year for career technical education that was buoyed by the increase in funding that the legislature made available. It was a really good year for us last year in terms of funding available across all the different types of career technical education options that we have in the states. We are grateful for that. We're putting those resources to good use. We still have further to go. We've got some differences in funding levels depending on the governance structure of different CTE programs in the state. So that's something that we'd like to have addressed. And we would like to see dollars available for increasing or improving our infrastructure, some of the technical equipment that we have available. We want to make sure that students are using and learning on equipment that is just like the kinds of things that they'll experience when they go to work in the field. And so all those are some legislative priorities for us. I'll just conclude by saying that this work with career technical education is also closely linked to our United We Learn work. You see some of those banners around, and so a big part of United We Learn is an effort to make learning authentic, meaningful, deep and connected to the kinds of skills and concepts that students will need to demonstrate and master when they leave our schools. And career technical education is a great example of that. It requires students to go beyond just memorization or repetitive routine skills and go toward the application of knowledge in a real setting, in a real manner, and it's something that's important to them. So CTE is one of those areas that we can hold up as an example of what deeper learning looks like, that we want to see expanded across all of our content areas and all of the experiences that our students have. So it's a great exemplar of where we would like to go as a state with learning. With that, I'll turn things back to the rest of you, and I'm happy to listen in and hear the presentations from everyone else.
Thank you so much. So with that, I'd like to move us back to agenda item number 2, the approval of minutes from the May 31st, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there a discussion? Seeing no discussion, all approve, please say aye.
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 Anybody against, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it and the minutes have been approved. I'm going to turn it over to Associate Commissioner Beth Hargis to start giving us reports, and then she's going to hand it off to the next person and the next person to keep us on track on the agenda.
Again, thank you all for being with us this afternoon. 2022, we've had a lot of turnaround in the Office of Career and Technical Education. We were talking about it Monday, and we've lost a lot of staff members, but and I think this is an attribute to the professionals that we have in our office. We haven't dropped the ball at all. We've carried on and moving forward. So this is my first meeting as Associate Commissioner, and I'm excited to be here and excited to hopefully lead the way with the support of the rest of the staff. So the first person that I'd like to tell you about is Reagan Satterwhite. Reagan was a branch manager for us over our program consultants. And so Reagan, has now stepped into the policy advisor position, replacing Leslie Slaughter. Likewise, we have Beth Engel, who again is in the room with us. And Beth served as our business and marketing consultant and has stepped into Reagan's position as branch manager. We've also added Ashley Van Hoos, who is our Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America State Advisor. And Ashley came to us she's worked at both Scott County and Anderson County. And then we've also added Kim Walters as an assistant data manager to help Scott. And Kim was actually already part of KDE, and so just transitioned to our office. We've also added Amy Tracy with our Infinite Campus program. She is coming to us. She was an ATC principal at Lincoln County, and so is now heading up the system. She's the system consultant for Kentucky Tech Systems Data Exchange. Okay, next slide, please.
Maybe.
Again, technology's great until. Okay, well, I can go ahead and start. Richard Ray is our new STEM consultant, and we are so happy to have Richard on staff with us. Richard actually came to us from Texas and is retired military. I believe he was a colonel, maybe, in the Army. But he has a lot of really good background for us, and it's definitely, we needed this position, and so we're very excited. He has hit the ground running. We have Erica Settlin as Media Arts, Law, and Public Safety Consultant, and she came to us from Shelby County. And then you've met Linda Jackson earlier. She is the CTE Showcase Project Manager for us. And then we have also collaborated with the Office of Special Education. We have Bill Bates with us, and this is a position that is so needed because we've never had that person to fill the gap in our technical schools and technical programs as far as being able to identify and effectively meet the needs of all students. So Bill, again, everybody on staff is just really, they've started off strong. And so again, our office is continuing to roll. So I will now turn it over to Tom Thompson, who is a director in our office.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to share a little bit of good news with you. Students attending the High School of Business programs in Eastern High School in Jefferson County and Arvin Center in Oldham County have scored in the top 10% nationally in the 2021-22 High School of Business final exam. Over 6,000 students participated in this final exam, and Kentucky had 102 students scoring in the top 10%. Nelson County High School, and this kind of goes back to some of the funding. Some of the schools shared with us what they've done with their funding, and Nelson County High School was able to add a business program that they previously didn't have. The program will allow students the opportunity to participate in Future Business Leaders of America. The program is also working to develop and open a school store. Students have been doing marketing research, developing marketing plan, creating a policy and procedures manual, and plan to open December 1st. They are also using funding to get into the community and meet with business and industry, and plan to visit Bardstown, Nelson County Chamber of Commerce, Kroger, and Fuji Silk, which is a company there local. A team from Lyon County High School, Future Business Leaders of America, is one of only 26 teams chosen to compete in the last phase of the Intuit Social Innovation Challenge. Kentucky Health Occupation Students of America is excited to offer 5 regional conferences this year, 3 which are new. And then on TSA, the National Technology Students Association will be having their conference in Louisville, June 28th through July 2nd. A little more good news, the FFA camp in Breckinridge County, Hardinsburg is remodeling 5 of the cabins that they have this winter. Hopefully we'll get it done this winter. If not, we'll be in trouble this summer once kids show up. Implementing many security upgrades throughout the campus. And we had the Kentucky School Safety come out and do an audit of the facility and give us some pointers on what to do there. Replacing the original administration building with a $6 million renovation. That was a line item in the budget from the General Assembly. It'll include offices or office space, ball courts, commons area, classrooms to facilitate leadership, professional development trainings. And they have some of that in the administration building that they have now, but they don't have a flexible space if the weather's not great for the kids to come in and have some activities indoor other than one auditorium. National FFA convention was a success. Mallory White, representing Kentucky as the National FFA East Region Vice President, provided her retiring address. Haley Brock of North Laurel was named the National High Individual in the Environmental and Natural Resources Career Development event, while her team placed second in the nation. Spencer County FFA placed second in the nation in Floriculture Career Development event, the highest place ever in the Kentucky team for the floriculture event. McCreary Central FFA placed third in the nation in forestry career development event. And this is also the highest we've ever placed in that event. Several other Kentucky teams and individuals placed in the top 10 nationally in career development events. This was the best year ever. It was the best year in memory and probably ever for Kentucky career development events. 7 Kentucky members placed in the top 10 in National Agri-Science Fair. Corey Hedge of West Carter was in the top 3 in the National Talent Contest. Caleb Coots from Trigg County made it to the top 15 in talent, and Brandon Hall from John Hardin, had a solo in the National FFA chorus. Logan Holland from Grant County and Jeffrey Sparrow from Taylor County were national proficiency finalists, top 4 in the nation. So a lot of good things going on in our CTSOs. Dr. Hargis mentioned 2 new employees. One is kind of completely new to us, is the STEM consultant, Richard Ray, and then our media arts, JRTC, and law and public safety is, we kind of combined several things in there. So I kind of wanted to share a little bit of what they're doing. So for media arts, she's been pursuing the development and pilot of a Kentucky Production Assistant certification to support Kentucky Film Incentive Initiative and pipeline support, pursuing the creation of a media trail to highlight Kentucky media industry. And that's for news, video production, photography, graphic design, development of an internship, co-op, studio tour partnership to secure hands-on application for industry preparation, increase the number of MOU articulation agreements, and establish additional dual credit partnerships. And then she had Asbury on there, one she started with. Additional work in law and public safety. So I thought this was really neat. After work, Erica has been going out and, I'm sorry, I didn't change the screen, doing the Citizen Police Academy with the Frankfurt Police, and she just graduated, I guess Monday evening, they had a graduation for her. And I thought that was so neat. So I think it's important that she's out there doing that stuff, because now she has a real solid foundation to go back and help her teachers share that information with them. So I thought that was super neat. Industry outreach with Kentucky Women's Law Enforcement Network, Kentucky Law Enforcement Council, and the Department of Criminal Justice Training. Standards revisions. She's going to be working with LAPSIN, and I don't know exactly the whole acronym, but it's the Law and Public Safety Network that she will be working with for it. Standard revisions for fire science and firefighting, and then the law enforcement, like we said. Realigning and expanding the industry certifications, work-based learning opportunities in law enforcement, occupation-based teachers requirements, and law and public safety. And then Mr. Richard Ray, some of the work that he's doing: STEM standards framework for grades 6 through 8, enhanced math and science learning in CTE, STEM literacy exposure in CTE, and establishing career pathways to support employment in STEM fields. And we deliberately worked on the name for that. We made that a STEM integration consultant, thinking that the idea was that he's going to be working with math and science consultants in KDE, but also working with all of the different program areas to help them make sure that they're putting that STEM spin on each of the things, the standards that they have. Our CTSOs, or career and technical student organizations, have been doing some trainings for new advisors. Of course, with the pandemic, we were really just kind of shut down on some of the CTSOs because the kids joined them to do things, to get out and to do stuff. And so they didn't get a whole lot of hands-on. So they thought, well, why sign up for it? And they did have some online events and things, but it wasn't the same. So they really took a hit. And I think, Robin, it was about 80% cut in students. So when you think about that, it really just devastated them. So all these new teachers have come in too, and they've not had anything to learn from. They've not had that experience. So they've been having some trainings across the state, and FBLA, Skills USA, FCCLA, HOSA, and TSA have had those trainings. And some of them have had several trainings across the state. So that's my update. Any questions? Sorry, I was long-winded. So I'm going to hand.
That's great news.
Good stuff. So how we're rebounding, right, from the CTSO enrollment now. So do you know how many students we have enrolled or involved this year? Yeah, and I know it's early and they're not all.
It's about 20,000 right now overall, but FFA is not included because they just ended their new year. So they'll be starting, and their ending date is not until March. So once you add FFA in it, maybe about 40,000.
About 20,000.
This year we jumped from, we went from 16,000 to a little over 20,000.
That's great.
So,
Okay.
Do you know how that'll compare if we add those in? How that would compare in pre-pandemic?
It would, we increased last year over previous years, and so if they get 20,000 and then add skills to it, that would be another increase over last year.
Awesome.
So
I think that TSA had an enormous increase with that the grant money.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to pass it along to Linda Jackson, our ESSER project manager.
Hi, my name is Linda Jackson, and I serve as the ESSER project manager, which are those funds to support learning loss during the pandemic. And Tom just talked about the new advisor training, and that was a pot of money we used from ESSER funds to support that initiative. And we have several other initiatives that we're working to increase CTSO enrollment. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is the Kentucky CTE Showcase. We have been very blessed with these ESSER funds. When Tom came to me and said, we need to do something such as a showcase, we hit the ground running as a department. So please mark your calendar for February the 21st at the Capitol from 1:30 to 4 o'clock. We have created a mini grant that went out and was disseminated across the state about 4 weeks ago. And hats off to the program consultants and the CTSO advisors, because we initially said that we were going to fund 20 with the pot of money that we set aside for this. And we have received 66 applications. And then we had 4 additional applications that came in but failed to meet the deadline. So we have had a huge response for this, for the displays and for the showcase. And a little bit about the showcase, and the reason behind that is Dr. Glass talked about increased funding for CTE and how grateful we are. And this is an opportunity for the schools to show the great things they're doing in the area of career and technical work in their schools. And so we are hoping to fund a few more than 20, because a lot of the grants didn't come in asking for the full amount. So we hope that we can squeeze every penny out, because we have some outstanding proposals. The program consultants and the CTSO state advisors are in the process of scoring those grants based on a rubric. And then we hope by the first week of December to let the schools know that we are able to fund. And so the displays are going to be interactive, a lot of them. They're going to showcase a nice variety of the pathways and the great work that's occurring in CTE across the Commonwealth. We added a second opportunity, and that's the Kentucky School Board Association. And so when they applied for their grant, they could either just attend the Capitol, or they could attend the Capitol on the 21st and on the 24th at KSBA. And I would say 95% of them marked that they would like to attend both sessions. And so as a former school superintendent, I know the power of school boards. They have the fiscal responsibility of deciding where their funds go. And so we wanted to expand the audience beyond the legislators and invited guests and all of the invitations that will go out in the mail to the school, to focus on school board members. Because once they see high quality CTE, the goal is that they go back to their school districts and they take a very eagle eye look at their own career tech programs and say, we've got to improve in some of our areas. So that will be from 11 to 5. That will be on Friday. And the goal there, when I've worked with KSBA, is that as the school board members enter that day, they will have to walk by the student projects and displays. I said, don't put them in the ballroom where nobody goes unless there's refreshments. We want them out there in front. So they have promised me that we will work on that. So I will entertain any questions. If not, I will turn it over to Larry.
I actually do have a question.
Sure.
That's okay. I love this idea. And I also love that you have like 60 plus applicants. So for those folks who are not able to attend either one of these 2 events, how can they learn about particularly the programs that won in our showcase? Is there going to be something on a website or?
Yeah, there's going to be multiple press releases. So the plan is that once we select the schools, that we will write a press release and send to each individual school and ask them to disseminate it out to their local media, local newspapers, a lot of, outreach that way. That will be one thing. We will be videotaping and putting together videos throughout the showcase. We've got a couple of very interesting, I don't know if they'll be funded because I'm not making that decision, but there was one school that their display was they do a live TV show while we're there. So they would be filming and taping on site during the showcase, stopping and interviewing people that walk by, interviewing some of the other displays. So we have a media, and I have to thank Reagan a lot for this. She's really helped with that media connection. KSBA has also promised that they will help with media on both the 21st and the 24th. So I've been in constant contact with them. They are going to send their media team out for both events.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks.
Larry?
All right, my turn. Thank you. I'm going to share some updates from our area technology centers. If you go to the next slide. So the Kentucky Board of Education held its two-day meeting on October the 11th and 12th at Logan County Career and Technical Center. As you can see by the slides, we had several student representatives there from Logan County that led the KB members, Commissioner Glass, and staff on a tour of the school. They were able to interact with students. They were able to see the programs, the equipment, the different activities that students are involved with, and just had a great time being introduced to this amazing facility at Logan County. So students were able to share opportunities that the things they participate in while they're at the center, to their CTSOs and to their programs. I'm sure several of you have been aware of what happened with Breathitt and Knox County and actually the surrounding region back in July of 22 with the flooding. So I just want to give an update. Breathitt County, Knox County ATCs, were pretty much totally destroyed in regards to all equipment, supplies, the building, just a really bad situation. We're in the process of working with FEMA and insurance companies on recovery. Currently, Breathitt County students are located at the Hazard Community College Lee's campus, which is in Jackson, just about maybe a mile or less down the road. That's where they're currently working at. And then Knott County students are actually being held with the ATC and the staff at the Knott County High School. And then the process of getting things back in order and providing quality instruction to the best of their ability. They're currently in the process of renovating Knott County ATC. Hopefully that will be open next semester. And there's currently plans underway to build a new ATC for Breathitt County. Just want to provide an update there.
Do you want to let you guys know there's a typo on the screen. It says Knox. It's meant to say Knott County.
Knott County. Floyd County ATC, we had Senator Johnny Lee Turner spent the day there as part of the Principal for a Day program and just had a great time touring the center in Floyd County. Excuse me one second. He toured the school, answered many questions, spoke to each program individually. The students and staff really enjoyed his visit and the information he shared about careers. So it's just a great day for those students, a great day for him to be introduced to the ATC in more detail and get to know that we have a new principal there. I believe he's in his second year, and get to know those programs and those students. That was a great day for everyone. And then we wanted to highlight Boone County ATC and really highlight all of our students across the state that are working so hard, earning industry recognized credentials such as the OSHA 10 certification, working on work-based learning opportunities, just making those early connections so when they leave high school, they're ready for that next level. So this is a group of students at Boone County, that a large group of students that earn their OSHA 10 card towards the beginning of the semester. We just want to congratulate them and just thank all the students and all the teachers that are working so hard across the state to prepare our students for that next step beyond high school. And if anybody has any questions, well, if not, I'll turn back over to Harmony.
Yep, back to me. Thank you. So now I have the pleasure of reporting to you about the early post-secondary opportunities work group. It is one of 3 work groups that's part of the Commonwealth Education Continuum that CPE hosts. And our work group has about 20 members. It's a continuation of last year's work group that also focused on early post-secondary opportunities that I believe Dr. Glass was one of the co-chairs of last year. So we're continuing that work. And as you can see, if you don't mind going to the next slide for me, please. Oh, yeah, sure, we can do that. I don't want to read the screen, but essentially the charge that was given to this work group was the continuation of the work from last year. And we're really looking at how students, or we can maximize those early post-secondary opportunities. So when I say EPSOs, early post-secondary opportunities, we're really talking about AP courses. We're talking about IB courses. We're talking to some extent, I think, Carnegie curriculum, although not too many high schools are utilizing that. Of course, the CTE, pathways to industry recognized credential that can then be leveraged into credits at a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution, and then dual credit, which is the largest EPSO in the state. So a lot of the conversation to date has been around dual credit because that is what we inherited from last year's work group, but we're also talking about the other items. So we're one of 3 work groups that are working on that. So the main, we meet almost every month with the exception of the month when the actual CEC work group meets. I did it. So the group came up with the following recommendations. So number 1 and number 2 is what the group inherited from last year already. And the dual credit policy, the reason it is being looked at and revised is because it was written in 2006. So it's dated at this point. There's been updates both to the scholarships. There's been an additional scholarship since that came out, the Work Ready Kentucky Dual Credit Scholarship. And there's just been a large increase in students taking dual credit. So our goal is to be able to present that to the CEC work group early in the new year and hopefully get that approved. Then the other thing is, and I'm sorry, there's a typo on this slide as well, just makes sure people pay attention. So we're developing an EPSO toolkit, an early post-secondary opportunity toolkit. Mainly it is geared at administrators, not so much students and parents at this point, because we feel like the foundation needs to be that everybody understands the landscape of what is available, what does it mean, for the students, what are the different instructor requirements, what are the dots that need to be dotted and T's that needs to be crossed, et cetera. I think down the line, we're looking at other opportunities to make sure that we inform students so that they can understand better, like, why would I want to take an AP course over a dual credit course, or why would I maybe want to go the certification route and turn that into articulated credit down the way. The good news is there's lots of opportunities, but the bad news is when we did small focus groups is we realized that folks don't understand the landscape out there. So that's why you will see number 3 is the improving advising and communications. And the more we've talked about that, we realize it really needs to be 2 separate items. Improving advising is one thing, and then communication is a separate thing. So moving forward, you'll see those separate. But the advising piece is really important, right? Because everybody owns that. I think everybody points to somebody else to do the advising, but it's not fair to expect high school instructors to do advising for post-secondary opportunities. That's not what they were trained for. That's not what they're advising students on. So what does that landscape look like? Is it up to the post-secondary to step into that space, or is there some kind of transition advisor or communication information that we can share around that? So in the new year, that's what the group is going to focus on. 3 and then 4, incentivize their teacher credentialing. The bulk of that will focus on dual credit, right? Because that is where the 4-year or 2-year schools post-secondary determine what the credentials are to be able to teach those. It's easy to say sort of for the general education or general studies courses, English, math, the sciences, et cetera, they need 18 credit hours at the master's level. But there's a disconnect there because that is not what the high schools require of teachers, right? Like I use my husband as an example all the time. He's a high school English teacher, but his master's was not in English. His master's was in education. So he can't teach dual credit, but there's not much incentive for him or all the other instructors out there that don't have the master's level coursework to do that. And when there's no pay in the state of Kentucky to teach dual credit, the questions are what are the incentives there? So I'm pleased to say that Kentucky was one of 4 states invited just last week by the College and High School Alliance to do a deep dive into possibilities of incentive and strategies to be able to increase that, because we see it as an access issue, right? It's the reason students may not be able to take dual credit is because there aren't teachers to teach it. Right. So more to come on that, but we're really excited that we are taking a deep dive into that and looking into it. And then the last one that we're focused on first, 3, 4, and 5, because we feel that's the foundation and we need to get those going, is to ensure program quality and alignment. And that really is going back to this idea that there's, again, a little bit of a mismatch between what are the high school graduation requirements versus what a student wants to do after high school, right? So you want to make sure that they maximize the opportunities without putting themselves at a disincentive after they graduate high school. So how can they satisfy both, et cetera? And then just make sure that the quality and rigor of any post-secondary opportunity program for students is similar to what it would be if they were in a college experience. 6, 7, 8, and 9 are also items that we are, putting focus on, but we don't feel like we can move forward on those until we have 3, 4, and 5 solidified, because that's the foundation. So the group actually meets again tomorrow, and then we'll provide an update to the continuum at their December meeting. So there'll be a couple of meetings before then, and when this group meets next, but I'll be happy to provide an update at that point, but answer questions now if there are any. Well, then Reagan, I think it's your turn.
We're excited about that work, Harmony. Thank you. This is actually a joint item between myself and Scott. It's okay. Scott's gonna kick it off for us and talk about some of our accountability legislative updates.
Yeah, absolutely. One bill we did want to point out was Senate Bill 59 from the last legislative session from 2022. Which specifically deals with assessment and accountability and does have an effect on academic and career readiness for schools. So just want to go over a couple of the high points there. So it does amend KRS 158.6455 to add post-secondary readiness indicators to the statewide accountability system. So as a result of Senate Bill 59, amendments to the post-secondary readiness measures listed in 703 KAR 5270, Kentucky's accountability system, were necessary. And one specific indicator we're going to go over on the next slide, there's a new wrinkle on one of the new indicators, new wrinkle on a previous indicator, I should say. Apprenticeship has always been recognized as one route to career readiness. In Senate Bill 59, it also calls out internship and co-op. So we're going to talk about how we handle that, and the Office of Career and Technical Education and the KDE Office of Assessment and Accountability, or OAA, created a work group to address the work-based learning indicator. That group includes, we have superintendents, principals, work-based learning coordinators, et cetera, on there to level set and try to create, benchmarks for where we need to set that as part of the accountability system. So we'll go over this very briefly, but I did want to, I'll try to hit the high points here, but I did want to go over, this is what post-secondary readiness looks like for our students. So for those that aren't familiar, every student in the grade 12 cohort, this is part of the entire accountability system. 20% of the accountability system is post-secondary readiness. So every kid in the 12th grade cohort, that's a graduate or not, we have to count non-grads as well, are shown whether or not they meet an academic or career readiness indicator. So this is what they're measured by. So the first one, meeting or exceeding a college readiness benchmark score on the college admissions exam or a college placement exam approved by the Council on Post-Secondary Ed. That is not new. That was part of the previous system as well. Those are things like benchmarking on the ACT, the other approved exams, SAT, the Coyote. There are several that CPE recognizes. If they meet a benchmark score on that, that's one route to readiness. Achieving 3 hours of college credit or post-secondary articulated credit by completing a course approved by the KBE. This is a new twist on that one. That used to be 6 hours previously in the previous transition readiness system. With the birth of post-secondary readiness, that was halved. So it is now 3 hours as opposed to 6. So if a student passes a 3-hour course with a C or above, they would be counted as a yes for academic or career readiness, depending on the type of dual credit course that they completed. Third one, achieving a benchmark score on AP, International Baccalaureate, or Cambridge, or other nationally recognized exams approved by the KBE that generally qualifies the student for 3 or more hours of college credit. This again is not new. This was also halved. This used to say 2 exams, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, et cetera. That has been, again, changed to 1 exam for that particular indicator. The next one is what I want to really focus on, because this is the one with a really new twist, at least as far as career readiness is concerned. So completing a required number of hours or achieving a benchmark within an apprenticeship, cooperative, or internship that is aligned with a credential or associate degree and approved by the KBE after receiving input from the LSAC or local superintendent's council. As mentioned, apprenticeship has been part of readiness for as long as I can remember. We gauge that from what's called the TRAC certificate, or the Tech Ready Apprentices for Careers in Kentucky TRAC program. If a student were to earn that certificate, they would be deemed career ready. That's always been part of the system. The new twist here, as I said, was that cooperative and internship are now part of that particular indicator. This is a very timely meeting. Actually, yesterday we met with the SCAC committee, SCAAC, which is an accountability council or committee. And we pitched the proposal. I don't know if I'm supposed to go into too many. I don't know if we should go into any specifics on that. But the meeting went quite well. We did bring to them our ideas for what a benchmark should be for cooperative or internship. I hate not to go into any details, but I don't know if we can say that quite yet. So I'm going to leave some of the specifics out. I do want to let people know that we're very mindful about creating some guardrails around that. We wanted to make it of equal rigor. I think that's the big thing, is that it's not seen as a lesser indicator, that it's not something that schools and districts are going to point every kid toward that to get them career ready. We need it to be rigorous. So I think we're on the right track there. But again, more specifics to come on that. And then finally, the fifth one, this has not changed at all. Achieving any industry recognized certification, licensures, or credentials with more weight and accountability for industry recognized certifications, licensures, or credentials identified as high demand. This is the only way in the post-secondary readiness system a student can accrue a bonus on behalf of a school. If they pass a high demand industry certification from our valid industry certification list, the school will actually get 1.25 points on behalf of that student. Every other indicator that we've gone over thus far, whether it's academic or career, counts for 1 point. So that is the only way to accrue a bonus on behalf of a student for a school. And then we included this as well, the work-based learning manual. This is very timely, considering what I just talked about, how work-based learning is going to play a much bigger role in the post-secondary readiness system. This will be scheduled for a release during this academic year, during the 22-23 academic year. I believe the last time it was edited, I believe it's 2015, roughly. So it's been several years since that has been updated. It needed some TLC, just some things that are available. There's going to be some new fillable PDF forms. We have some great forms that Tina has created for us, who's one of our work-based learning folks in the office, to make it easier for schools, if they have a kid co-oping, they have a kid going to those internship experiences, that they'll have forms available that will be helpful for them as students experience those. Promotional resource pages, infographics for display, and then an FAQ that's been developed with some helpful hints Because there are some things with work-based learning. There's some nuance to it. Not to get too deep, but like for co-op, you can't just throw any kid in a CTE co-op. That doesn't work. You either have to be a completer of a pathway or concurrently enrolled in another pathway course. So there's some things to know that you can't just take any student and plop them into a CTE co-op. Number one, they're probably not going to be successful. And secondly, there's some rules to follow. So all of that would be spelled out in the work-based learning manual. At this point, I think I'm going to hand it over to Reagan.
Sure. And if you'll go back to the previous
Sure.
slide just for 1 second. There we go. Oh, I couldn't figure out where the mouse went.
You're right.
No, you're good. I do just want to mention this is totally ready to go. If anyone wants to see it in draft format, we can send the work-based learning manual. It was incorporated by reference into regulations, so it's had to go through the legislative process in order to be updated. Just last week, it was approved by the Administrative Regulations Review Committee. So it is now in its 90-day legislative review period. And assuming it's not found deficient by any of those committees, we're going to release it as soon as that timeline is done. So we are very excited about it. All right, Tom, thank you. There aren't really a whole lot of brand new legislative updates to share, and that's just simply because we really, we have not had a session since this committee last met in May of this year. And so one thing I did want to share, this past Monday, I had the opportunity to attend the Kentucky Chambers event, the legislative preview, for some insight into the 2023 legislative session. 2 members of this committee were speakers at the event. Representative Riley and Senator Hickton both did an excellent job during that event, and it was very beneficial information. I do have a couple highlights from the day that are applicable to career and technical education that I wrote down and I wanted to share. There's a lot of attention statewide right now on education and how it relates to the workforce. At the preview, members of the General Assembly expressed that emphasis needs to be placed on career and technical education, and specifically to get across the importance to the public and to the Commonwealth that some of the careers that they may not traditionally think of are actually extremely valued, and not only valued, but they're high wage and high demand. So they recognize that message needs to be spread across the state to bring awareness. Representative Riley also made a really good point that it's often a challenge to find CTE teachers for some of our certain CTE program areas because many of our skilled trade professionals have to take a pay cut when they decide to enter the classroom. And as much as they may want to teach, it's just not feasible for everyone to take a pay cut. And so we are thankful that our legislators recognize that and know that it's an issue and want to help us work to making a solution. So, Brian, did you want to add anything to that?
No. Session starts in January. It's a 30-day short session. So they'll have one the first week. They could pass some bills that first week. Probably unlikely in the short session. They'll gavel out for a month. Be back for part 2 in February, and we'll adjourn by March 31st. So, and then we'll roll straight into a budget session.
It will be here before we know it. Of course, now getting to this slide, you all have seen this before. At our May meeting, we shared that House Bill 1, the state budget, appropriated $70 million for career and technical education, which was a very big number that we've never seen before. This was a $58 million increase in career and technical education funding. This allowed us to fund all programs, all career and technical education programs, where previously only state-operated centers and certain LAVECs were funded, local area vocational education centers. And so now, regardless of location, regardless of governance, every CTE program at every school is funded. So this allowed us to go from 96 schools that receive CTE funding in Kentucky to 316.
That's just for the next 2 years.
Yes, that is just for the biennium budget. And we'll talk about it when we get into the next couple of slides that, our continued legislative priority is to try to sustain that funding going forward. let's see. So we are so thankful to our legislators and to the General Assembly for their investment in career and technical education and their support of not only our students, but our future workforce. I'm going to call out some members that are on the committee. We have some administrators and some school personnel that have been beneficiaries of that increased funding. Matt or John Sanders, or both of you guys, would you chime in a little bit and tell us, how that funding has helped you better equip your schools and your students, either what you've already spent or what you plan to spend it on?
Sure. This is Matt Hayes at Grayson County Technology Center, and I just want to say how blessed we are to receive that extra funding, especially just the opportunities it's provided our students. So, for example, we were able to we had 12 courses of 3D printing that made, and we were not going to be able to let those courses make because we just didn't have funding for a teacher. So, right off the bat, we were able to actually fund. Had the money to fund for an extra teacher. So that has absolutely changed the direction in our community. We actually had several business leaders here today where our students are getting to do some CAD CAM and actually 3D printed a project that I'm not really at liberty to talk about because I don't think the person knows that they're going to get it just yet. Some other things that have just been phenomenal. We had an unfunded program in computer programming, and we have been able to buy some robotic arms, some drones. Before Mr. Thompson left Breckinridge County, we were working with Breck and me to do a Tech Connect where we bring together machining, welding, computer programming, basically every pathway in our region. And we actually have a CTSO competition. This was the first year we were actually able to do it the way that we wanted to. As part of that extra funding, we were able to work with the University of Louisville and their AMIST, their Advanced Manufacturing Institute, and their robotics division to create, basically, it's just a post-secondary document, a very informal post-secondary document for our students who want to become engineers. So that was something that, I know earlier you all talked about the connection between rigor. What it's allowed us to do is let people in our community see that machining is rigorous and that if a student wants to become an engineer, they have to be able to take that theory and that technical aspect and put it together. So it has changed dramatically the view of CTE in Grayson County. And another huge thing that we've been able to do, we had a carpentry program and we were able to change that to building and apartment maintenance. There's just a need for HVAC, electricity, masonry, and we weren't able to do that necessarily by adding all those pathways, but we were able to change our carpentry program to building and apartment maintenance or residential maintenance carpenter assistant, and now we're actually able to buy things so that our students can go out into the workforce and make ductwork, and they show up at a job site and they know some basics about electricity. So it's tremendous, and I'm just super excited at the opportunities and very appreciative that our students and our staff are going to have the ability to turn out a much improved workforce. So thank you all tremendously for the funding.
And this is John Sanders from Franklin County Career Tech Center. And just really to echo what Matt said, this is year 22 for me in CTE. And, I think we always have those wish lists and things that we would like that we know would benefit students. And, for the first time, we have had the liberty to do some great things for our kids. Particularly the thing that I'm most excited about, and something I've said for years, if I had a wish list, they say, well, what would you want to do? What would be the biggest benefit? I would have said a guidance counselor. And so we were able to hire a CTE guidance counselor, and it's been amazing. It's been so good for kids. Whether that be getting them signed up for dual credit courses. She's already done a couple different college visits, with the nursing students and working with Campbellsville pipe welding and getting students enrolled for that next year. And just really what I've found most beneficial is, a lot of times guidance counselors are meeting with your high flyers, those students that are really struggling, or they're meeting with your AP students who know exactly what they want and how to get there. But it's those students in between that a lot of times we miss. And she's just been able to focus on all of our kiddos and meets with them every senior one-on-one. What's your plan? How are we going to get you there? So that's been huge. We also were able district-wide to free up some money because of these new funds. And we're actually partnering with a local electrical business and as well as utilizing the track program. And we're going to open a electrical technology program starting next year. So super excited about that. You know, that's just more opportunities. And, you know, working with the high schools. So I'm in a unique spot to where, you know, I've got 2 high schools that have ag programs, business programs, family consumer science, and they're getting to be able to knock off some of their wish list items and expand offerings. And it's just good for kids. And, you know, CTE is good for kids. And so I think that being seen and recognized with this funding is just amazing. And I think we're going to see just so much more potential. We're going to see more industry search. We're going to see students better prepared for the workforce. We're going to see more dual credits. So, you know, anybody and everybody that had to do with this funding, I'm forever grateful. Our kids are grateful. So, you know, in all honesty, thank you. And like I said, it's been in it 22 years, and this is by far the most exciting and excited time that I've seen for CTE. So, yeah, we'll keep taking it. That's for sure. We appreciate it. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Matt and John. And you know, as you guys testified, it's been very impactful. But we do know that right now this money is only promised for 2 years. So it's one of not only the Office of Career and Technical Education, but the agency as a whole. It's our continued legislative priority to try to sustain this funding and budgets going forward. So we will be working on that in preparation for the 2024 bigger session, the budget session, to try to get that again. But there's another layer to it. Our continued vision is to not only sustain the funding so that programs are continued to be funded at an adequate level, but to also reform the distribution of the funding. So we're calling it kind of the new funding formula that we want to work towards. This would not only account for the number of students enrolled in every CTE program in Kentucky, but it would also take into account incentive for schools that are implementing measurable indicators of high quality career and technical education. And so we're going to be really strategic about the way that we go about this, and we're going to want input from not only this advisory committee, but multiple partners as we work on this funding formula. You have seen at the last meeting the ACTE framework, the Association of Career and Technical Education framework for 12 indicators of high quality CTE. You'll go to the next one. And you're going to be seeing it quite a lot going forward. We've actually been working with KACTE and Mike Stone to develop a theme around our summer program around the indicators and high quality CTE. And we will make sure that sessions are available to educators and administrators at the conference that touch base on all of the indicators. And this is what we're going to use to decide how we're going to go about measuring high quality CTE in those programs. So as Scott described it to me one time, of course, Scott is our data person and our mathematical genius, and I am not. I'll try to describe it like he did to me, and it finally clicked with me and made sense. So we'll take the formula and we'll divide it equally among programs based on student enrollment, but then each one of these indicators is also going to have a multiplier. And so if a school implements all of these indicators, they will also receive multiplication for each one of those that will provide additional funding for them to utilize. So does anybody have any questions right now?
Way to put it in layman's terms. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I do appreciate those of you all that were able to fill out the survey. We do want to have a discussion. So Dr. Hargis and I will kind of facilitate the discussion. We're envisioning work groups around each of these indicators, and not only experts, but folks that are just simply interested in each of these indicators to help us as we try to put this new funding formula on paper. We'd like to ask for a little bit of feedback. Which do you guys on the call and in the room feel like might be challenging to quantify? Which do you have questions about, or do you have thoughts over the entire vision? Go ahead.
I looked over these a few days ago. I thought that access and equity and engaging instruction could probably be the two hardest to kind of quantify. Just based on access looks different depending on who you are and where you're from. Also, engaging instruction is just hard to measure because it's very relative to who you are as a student. Students learn in so many different ways that what's engaging for one group may not engage another group. So I just think those would both be challenging to incentivize.
Eva, you are so insightful on that because we've had that very discussion within our office. You know, some of those, and I'm sorry, I'm unable to see it. Work-based learning, you know, we can track that because we can put a number to it and say, you know, yes, you've done it or you haven't done it. But when you get into those, it's very subjective. And so, and one of the things that we've talked about too, and this is where, again, we need your input is, do all of these need to be included? You know, because it's possible that they don't, you know, so some maybe, you know, again, we need input with this because we've had multiple discussions. And in fact, when it comes to access, we talked about the fact there may be a CTE school that or programs that struggle getting students. Well, does that mean they don't get as much money because perhaps they're the ones that need the money in order to build the programs? So you have to be really careful about that. And so that's why, again, we need your all's feedback on this as far as exactly how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
If I could talk access and equity, and again, not that this is a silver bullet, but one idea I've had, a way we could quantify it is to look at the population you're drawing from in terms of gender, race, special populations, that sort of thing, and whether or not the CTE population mirrors that, or if it's, you know, if there are certain races that are not being served and don't have access. Anyway, there are some ways to try to get at that, but you're right. It's a tough one. It's tough.
I think it's a critical indicator to include but maybe the question is how you look at it. Are you looking at it to closing an equity gap versus an access issue, right? And I think when you pick those indicators, one of the difficult things to determine is which ones you're going to count. Because, you know, as I said, I'm part of the work that's trying to figure out what we're going to do as our statewide dual credit access indicator. And we thought we had cracked it along the lines of what you were talking about. But then when we started looking at it, you realize that one student can count for more than one, right? So they can count either for low socioeconomic and like, you know, a different race, or, you know, we have some other indicators that you don't have. So I don't have a solution either. I just want to caution when you do go down that route to realize that it might not be one for one.
Can fall. Yeah, of course, that they could fall in. Yeah, multiple crosstabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then maybe the mirroring is a better way to go, but not again realizing that. But anyway, just some food for thought.
Good point. Very good point. Tough. It's a tough one.
But I needed.
But important. But important. Yeah.
I want to point out many of these are already being tracked because they're federal Perkins indicators. And so schools must meet several of these indicators in order to receive Perkins funding, which we're already tracking within our office. So standards aligned curriculum, sequence and articulation, student assessment, business and community partnerships are already measured in some way with their advisory committee meetings and submitting minutes and things of that nature. And of course, CTSO participation are things that we already have a good handle on how to collect from our programs. And then of course, with our work-based learning work within the accountability model, We're also working on collecting that data from schools for the first time as well. So some of these we're going to need to get more into the weeds in than others. And that's where we really love participation for ideas like that, Harmony, in order to kind of hash this out. So I will be sending a follow-up survey to the advisory committee members. If you've already filled out the first survey, you can ignore it. But this one will just be very short, and it will ask if you're willing to participate in a work group or a subcommittee specifically to look at the funding model. And it'll just be 1 or 2 questions, and we'd appreciate feedback on that from this group.
The other, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, again, if there's any comments or questions about this, we are happy to take those. And
Yeah, so that's where I was going with this. The other question I have, and I'm sure you all have discussed it, I just don't know the answer, is if you look at the facilities and equipment, how do you do that equitable when some have facilities that are like, 20 years old and others, were built maybe not a year ago, but.
And then do they get more money because they don't have adequate facilities, or do they get rewarded because they do? So that's something.
Yeah, I mean, I think you almost have to look at each one of these in isolation and not look at them as a group. And then once you resolve each one in isolation, then you have to look at, okay, is it the total package, or do they pick, 70% of them, or, and is there a benchmark they have to meet, or are we doing, in progress, have met, or exceeding? I mean, I guess the good news is we can decide, but it's challenging because we can decide.
another thing, Harmony, because when I look at 12 indicators and you think, we can certainly put something together, but we also don't want it to be a funding formula that is so complicated and complex that it really causes more issues than it's.
No, you want to set people up or schools up to succeed.
So that's why, again, we say we think it's possible that perhaps not all of these get included in the funding formula. So, we just need to have the discussion about it so that we can come to a consensus.
And are you doing a focus group or surveys with schools themselves to get input on this? Yeah. Okay, great.
And I see Shelley has her hand raised.
Yeah, just kind of going back to the facilities, equipment, technology sector. Having technology, having equipment doesn't necessarily mean it's quality equipment. Knowing that particularly within manufacturing, and I would guess healthcare as well, as the technology changes, I know a lot of our locations tend to get hand-me-down equipment from people who are trying to be helpful and offer that to the schools or to the programs. But if the students aren't necessarily working on current equipment with current technology, it's not always helpful for them in their future endeavors. So just another piece of it there to consider when you're looking at that indicator specifically.
And I see, John, you have your hand raised as well. Maybe.
John, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Well, we'll come back to you, John, if you can get back up and running.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Okay, well, if you're like me and you will have that thought when you drive home or anything else, but make sure that you follow up with Dr. Hargis or Reagan so that they can document that, because I think it's really important information. Do we have anything else on this topic? Just like get us.
That gives us a good starting point. And as I said, we'll be sending a survey. So if you guys will just watch for it, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
The theme for the summer program is empowering high-quality CTE for students.
Awesome.
I like that, Mike. Thank you.
That's good.
Empowering high quality CTE for students. Something we can all get behind.
Hope so.
It's gone to print.
All right. Well, So it's hard to believe that we're actually going to talk about May 2023, but that is when we are slated to do our next meeting. And I realize that with people online and with people in the room, we're not going to settle on a meeting date. But I think it'd be really helpful in terms of logistics to get a feel for, since that is end of the academic year and all of that. If folks have a preference for early May, mid-May, or late May. So for those of you who are online, if you can please put in the chat if you have a stronger preference, or if you don't have a preference, just write in May. But that will help us narrow down looking at meeting dates. And then Mix Baxter will follow up with a doodle poll for everybody. But as you put those dates in, I would really encourage you to think about a time when you could meet in person. It is amazing to have technology that allows us to do hybrid meetings. And when plans change and you're not able to be here, I didn't know if I'd be here, so I'd love the option of being able to do it virtually. But I think it just makes it easier to have those richer discussions. So if you can, there's items coming in the chat. Since I don't have a computer, I can't see, but if you can, yeah, folks are starting to put in. So thank you so much for indulging and giving us a little bit of guidance. And we will get a doodle poll out in the next couple of weeks so that we can have the meeting on your calendar so it doesn't become an afterthought. All right, so we thought we had a really ambitious agenda, and we did, and we've learned a lot, and we've talked a lot about a lot of things, but we've actually already reached to the end of today's agenda. So I want to ask if they're, thinking about next time we get together. First, I'd like to know if there's anything that anybody would like to see on the agenda. When we were meeting to put this agenda together, I think we all realized, yes, we're probably going to want a legislative update, right? So that we could count on the fact that that will be on the agenda. But if there's anything else you would like to see, we would love to hear from you all about that. And if you're online, feel free to put it in the chat or chime in. And if there's anybody in the room that has any suggestions, Mike, I think we'd like an update on the plans for the summer conference.
Can be done.
Any other thoughts or ideas, we would be welcome. We welcome them, and we'll put a call out for agenda items closer to May as well. But if there's anything now. No, then, Tom had a moment to shine the spotlight on a lot of great things that are going on, but wanted to know if anybody has anything else they want to brag about or share with the committee.
This can be taken as bragging. Mike Miller is actually one of our committee members, but when he was put on the committee, he was actually a principal at Mayfield Graves ATC. And so Mike is now our West Region ATC supervisor. So Mike will be leaving our committee now that he is one of our office staff. But again, Mike, we're glad to have you in this position and glad that you've been able to serve on this committee and for your work at the ATC. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you.
I would like to brag on Linda a little bit about the work that she's done for the showcase.
You brag on her.
She's done an amazing job in organizing all of it.
Down until February the 25th.
And I'll tell you, we probably want you back on the agenda to let us know how that all went. So yeah, for sure. All right. Anybody else want to take opportunities? Yes.
I'll just say, and so I'm a resident of Breathitt County, so I stepped out for a moment just a little bit ago. When I came back in, of course, on the slide, I saw photos of the ATC that I attended as a student. And it's been a very emotional time for our community, but I know the Office of Career and Technical Education here at the department and the whole agency has done a lot of really good work in my home community and in the region that surrounds it to help with recovery efforts. And I'm tremendously proud of all of Eastern Kentucky, everyone who was impacted by flooding. And also, I'm tremendously proud of our area technology centers and their staff. Not only have they adapted to the difficulties that they've faced, they've continued to teach students in the process, and I believe that great things are in store. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank
you for being here.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
I'm glad to be here.
Well,
Good
yes, please.
Sorry, I was just going to make sure you all knew the new executive director of the KWIB is Alashir Barikanov. So if you all have worked with him before in the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services, you'll be seeing him as he makes his transition complete over the next couple of weeks. So just feel free to reach out and introduce yourself. We're trying to schedule some appointments for him to work with our various subcommittees and committees within the KWEB. And actually, I'll be reaching out to Reagan and Dr. Hargis offline, just in thought about how KWEB might help in some of the outreach that they're talking about. So just wanted to share those pieces, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks, Debbie.
Anyone else online? No. Well, then and did you all have anything, any remarks or comments? No. Well,
Thank you again for having us. Really appreciate being here and appreciate all the work you do for our organizations and the students and CTE programs.
well, really, we were going to thank you for being here. So the feeling is mutual. Now I want to just brag on Dr. Hargis and her staff. You guys do an amazing job. It was great to get all of these updates today. And we look forward to getting together in May. So I think we officially have to call for adjournment. So is there anybody who wants to make that motion?
Well, I'll do that.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right. A second to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We have a second. All right. And we'll do this by acclamation. So I'm going to just say, is anybody opposed to adjourning? All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in May, but I'm sure we'll see you before that.